Good afternoon. Welcome to today's installment of the PENC webinar series. My name is Katie Cox, and I'm the PENC Membership Director. If you have any technical issues today, please use the chat box, and I will try to assist you. We have 4 presenters today from the PENC Leadership Institute, and we will take questions after each 10-minute presentation. First, I'm going to turn it over to Rich St. Dennis, the instructor of the Leadership Institute. Rich?
Thank you, Katie. Thanks for organizing this. Thanks for all your help with the Leadership Institute over the last year. Hello, everybody. This is Rich St. Dennis. I'm an instructor for the Institute. I'm based here in Atlanta. I'm actually down in my basement home office right now, broadcasting. Glad to have all of you on board. I was looking at the registration roster and I saw some familiar names. Hope you're online with us. There's a fellow by the name of Kenneth out there that I've known, John, Sean. Some of those folks have been prior participants in our Leadership Institute. And I see a number of companies that are registered to participate today. People from McKim & Creed, W.K. Dixon, City of Gastonia, City of Raleigh, McAdams, Jacobs, Duke Energy, Terracon, Southern Construction, and also McNair Construction, among others. You're seeing a picture, of course, of the class of 2019-2020, and they constitute up to the 96th member of the Leadership Institute that we've conducted over the past 9 years. There was 1 year where we were on hiatus. And let me just show you some slides here. It'll run silently on its own to give those of you who are not familiar with what we do a little flavor of what the Leadership Institute is all about. So let me go ahead and run some slides for you. My congratulations to this class. Okay, that's a preview, or review rather, of some of the things that we did this past year. Let me call on Aaron, Drew, Courtney, and Lydia, our presenters today. Just off the cuff, Aaron, what was a particularly memorable moment for you in our program this past year?
I really like the team building activities. I like I think about the card game where you had to get the certain number of cards matched up and work together as a team. Really enjoyed any of the team building activities together.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that card game was all about setting a goal and then creating a process to try to meet standards of time and accuracy. So it required some good coordination and communication. Lydia Ward, what was something that you remember from the Institute?
Hi, Rich. Yeah, I remember a lot of impromptu presentations, which were not easy, but were really helpful and were great learning opportunities.
Yeah, we did a lot of that, didn't we? Drew, what was something that you recall from the Leadership Institute?
I really liked the exercise where we had to I guess it had to do like EI, emotional intelligence, like figuring out people's like facial expressions, and that was one of the big takeaways I had.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I gave each table group, or actually, I think it was almost each individual or duo, a stack of about 30 cards, and they were required to try to figure out what emotion was being expressed. Emotional intelligence was a big part of our program. And then finally, Courtney Potter, what was something that you remember from this past year?
I just remember going through some stressful times, some things we weren't expecting, and just being able to do that together. And the way that you would always ask us to do that, you would always provide an example in the way that you led us and how you wanted us to lead the class. And I just enjoyed getting to do that with everyone in the class and kind of feeling like we were all a part of something together, and that we weren't the only ones who were nervous to speak up. It was something that we all shared and we were able to get better at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you ever feel nervous, that means you really care about doing a great job. And in fact, all the great presenters, all the great performers, all the great athletes, anybody who's on stage in front of a large number of people and things are on the line, when the stakes are high, if you're not feeling a little bit nervous, something's wrong with your central nervous system. And actually feeling a little bit of stress, good stress, is a positive, because it unleashes actually the peak performances. When you're feeling blasé, when you're feeling just calm, you don't do your very best. When you're under just a little bit of pressure, just enough pressure, that's when we bring out the very best. Well, for me, it's been a pleasure working with all of you and getting to know you individually and hearing your stories and watching you as you did the assignments. And I truly appreciate all the work that you did. Believe it or not, I just received a text from a prior member of the very first class ever. And last week I had a text from a member of a class a couple of years ago. So I love staying in touch with all of you. We're right on track. In fact, a couple of minutes ahead of schedule. So Lydia Ward, you're on board as our first presenter. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Okay, have at it.
Great. So my name is Lydia Ward. I'm with Friesen Nichols here in Winston-Salem, and I did my culmination project on, let me make sure this isn't showing, on office event planning, building camaraderie virtually. So Babe Ruth was an excellent individual player, and he has a quote about the importance of teamwork. The way a team plays as a whole determines its success. You may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but if they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime. So my project was focused on teamwork. and how we could build that camaraderie as a group. And so my original plan was to plan this epic office event. So an epic event is emotionally elevating, pride-inducing, insight-producing, and connective. So I wanted a event that people got excited to go to and that it really connected and brought the team together. So that was going to be held at a local park where we could do kayaking and have food and conversation and games. A little background on this project was I work in a small office. There are 8 full-time employees in our office. And over the months leading up to this culmination project, we've had a couple really big wins as a office, but they had gone by without a lot of celebration because we were so busy. We were just working toward the next deadline. And then we also had 2 recent hires. Alexa and Jason had started with our team, and in an office that went from 6 to 8 people, that can make a big difference. And you want to really let them get to know the other members of the office and get to know them. So the main challenge that I saw looking at this event was at prior events we had low attendance. And the 2 main factors that I thought led to that were a lot of our office members have long commutes. They drive an hour or more to the office, so they didn't necessarily want additional time spent doing work activities outside of work hours. And then there's a lot of regular last minute travel because of field work and meetings outside of the office that could be planned last minute. So the event really needed to be something that people wanted to attend and would make the exception to go to. But then we had a plot twist, and the COVID-19 stay-at-home order came into effect, which meant that our event was canceled, as you may imagine. So that brought me to a new challenge, and that was, how do you create team building opportunities virtually? So my culmination project really morphed, and rather than planning this one event, which I still hope to have in the future, but looking at virtual events, and I was a part of 2 separate virtual event categories, so virtual coffee breaks and happy hours. So the coffee breaks, there's a small group of us in the Winston-Salem office who all sit in cubes right next to each other, but we're not all in the same group. So at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the stay-at-home order, we weren't talking to each other much because we're not on the same projects, and that we're so used to just turning around and chatting for 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, but that just wasn't happening. And we wanted to make sure that we were staying in touch. So we decided that twice a week we would have just 15-minute brief calls set up that if you were available, you could join just to check in and make sure everyone was doing all right, and just stay in touch with each other. And then the other initiative that I was part of was virtual happy hours. So I joined the Friesen Nichols Fund Committee in January, and it's a team of 6 employees across all 3 of our North Carolina offices, and we plan the annual events. And at the beginning of this, we were talking about, a lot of our events are being canceled. We don't know what the future holds at this point, but how do we bring people together without, people aren't going to the office, so they're not getting that normal interaction with each other outside of just projects. So we decided to do weekly happy hours, and that gave people the opportunity that if they missed a week but they really wanted to be able to join, it wasn't a couple weeks or a month between getting to talk to people. So it just gave a little more flexibility for people to join as they wanted to. And these included all North Carolina office employees. So there's about 45 people that could potentially join this call, but we didn't expect that many people on any of the calls. So as you may know, on a call with that many people, it can start off a little awkward or shaky. No one knows who's going to talk or what you're going to talk about. It's not as easy as when you're in person. So we decided to set up themes. So we have had multiple trivia themed happy hours, 2 truths and a lie, where everyone in the offices was encouraged to send a couple of truths and a lie about themselves. And these are made into competitions. So everyone answers the questions as we go. And then the top 3 scorers get a prize at the end of the event. And on top of that, we also introduced this bingo game, which if you get 5 squares in a row at any point during one of the happy hours, you get a prize for that. So it was just another incentive to get people to want to participate and to keep these happy hours interesting. So throughout these virtual events, there were a couple of key leadership actions that we kind of went through. And the first one was really considering individual personalities. And we set up themes that different people would enjoy and in hopes that different people would want to join these calls. And also just understanding that some people weren't going to join any of the calls and some people would only join periodically. We had to reinvigorate the events rather than a typical happy hour. You could plan to just go to a restaurant, get food and drinks. The conversation will come up, naturally. But on the virtual calls, that's why we came up with the themes, was really just to help aid in that conversation starter and encouraging participation. So having the friendly competition and the bingo and prizes, we tried to encourage people to want to participate. And then a few of the results and lessons learned. So I think we had pretty good attendance. On average, I'd say around 15 people would join a week for the happy hour events, which actually are still ongoing. We had one just last night. And then between 2 and 4 people typically join for the virtual coffee breaks that I'm a part of. And the themes really did a good job of stimulating conversation. Typically, the conversation starts before we start the activity, and then it continues after the organized activity ends. But people have really enjoyed getting to participate in these. And it provided some sense of normalcy of getting to see each other on the video screen and talk to each other about things outside of just specific work. A couple of the lessons learned is the importance of flexibility and seeing these opportunities during challenging times to change how you maybe would have originally approached a situation, and the importance of building and maintaining relationships. So with that, does anyone have any questions that I can answer?
If you have a question,
Lydia,
go ahead and type it in the
for you.
question box.
Lydia, did you have any difficulties with the technology in connecting?
Overall, it actually went really smoothly, but we've been using Microsoft Teams, and you can only see 9 videos. So on calls with more than 9 people, you don't get to see that face-to-face interaction with everyone.
Okay.
But in general, everything has actually worked pretty well, and we were able to make light of some of the typical technology issues, such as people typing in their keyboard or being muted, with our bingo card, which included those. So it kind of made a little fun with potential issues.
You still have about a minute left. Katie, were there any questions from the field?
Nope, I don't see any. Oh, one just came through. Can you elaborate on the icebreaker activities during the happy hour kickoff?
Yes, yeah. So as I mentioned, so we had different events. So we have an event plan for each of our each week's happy hour. So last night we had trivia, and it was based on cinema theme. So it was quotes from movies that people had to guess. And we just use an online quiz maker so that people can type the answer in on their computer, and then it keeps track of scores as you go, so you can see how everyone's doing. And then we've had other themes such as North Carolina history and music, different genres and generations of music. And then the other icebreaker, I guess, would be the bingo card, which I can flip back to real quick.
And Lydia, we're almost out of time, so we need to wrap it up, okay?
Okay, yeah. Great, thank you. I think you can kind of see this bingo card right before we hop off of here. just as different ideas.
All right, thank you, Lydia.
Great, thank you.
And you got a final thought for us, Lydia?
Yes. So one final thought I'd like to leave you with is embrace change. Don't be discouraged by circumstances out of your control, and always accept the challenge and find new ways to approach a problem. And finally, remember the importance of relationships, including building and maintaining these relationships.
Very good, Lydia. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Our next presenter is Courtney Potter. Courtney, where are you located right at this moment?
I am actually at my house right now in North Carolina.
Okay, and let me go ahead and turn it over to you then. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Okay, have at it.
Thank you. We are all faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. Chuck Swindoll. I have learned this to be the case as a student on my journey through the Professional Engineers of North Carolina Leadership Institute. I believe we have all been given our share of impossible situations the last few months as we have experienced life in new ways. My name is Courtney Potter, and I am a licensed civil engineer working for Robinson & Sawyer as a project manager. Robinson & Sawyer is a civil engineering design and consulting firm in Gastonia, North Carolina. We specialize in land development, water and wastewater design, and stormwater management. We strive to provide our community with cost-effective design while upholding federal, state, and local standards for our clients. Today, I'd like to share with you about my leadership experiences planning a fundraiser to support Connections Church missions program, Cultivate Life. I will briefly cover what my plan was, and then I'll tell you about how I've chosen to see my impossible situation experience as a new opportunity to be a leader and show the love of Christ to those around me. I had planned to hold an event to raise money for international missions through my church, encouraging and influencing others around me to join in. I hope to gain their support, participation, and show them the joys of serving others for the Lord. I was planning the event at a local park with a track around it, asking all the participants to pledge a certain number of laps around the park. I planned to have a raffle drawing at the end and give out a few prizes to local areas. You might be wondering what this event, Miles for Missions, would support. 100% of my proceeds would go to Cultivate Life organization in Honduras. Cultivate Life was started by a couple from my church here in Belmont, North Carolina. This couple started a nonprofit organization that provides a feeding program for malnourished children, hosts an education program, and works in their community in Honduras to spread the love of Christ. I personally have a passion to see Christ's love shared and have seen how effective acts of service can be to show his love to others. I was really excited to put the event on. I had recruited a small team from my church to help me prepare and execute. Our church team leadership was excited too. I had also reserved a shelter at a local park and was working on the design of the flyers. One thing the Leadership Academy emphasized for me is that leadership is about setting direction. I don't know of a better way to set direction than to go in that direction myself. My husband and I were going to Honduras in March. We had been preparing for months, and we were so excited to get to go and serve and love the people in Honduras. Our trip's primary goal was to share the love and hope of Jesus with those in Honduras. We had planned to go to a special needs school and do crafts and play with the children, serve in a women's shelter, and various other projects. We had our flights booked and even said our goodbyes to some family members. This was a week that Honduras developed their first case of COVID-19. Long story short, with less than 24 hours before departing, we decided not to go. Honduras closed their borders 2 days later. As you know, things continued to change drastically. I found myself with canceling my event plans and preparations. This is where I leaned on my knowledge of emotional intelligence, one of the topics covered in the Leadership Institute. The first skill of emotional intelligence is to be aware of your emotions. Once we're aware of our emotions, we can manage them, and then we can inspire healthy emotions in ourselves and in others. Seeing that others were feeling a lot of negative emotions, as I was, along with COVID-19, I began to combat my negative emotions with what I found hope in. My reason for pursuing such an event and a trip. Almost every day of the week, I shared a Bible verse that inspired me or calmed me. I received several messages for how this was helping others during these times. I planned to show Christ's love to those in Honduras, but was given a different opportunity to share it here at home. Right now, Cultivate Life organization is working with other mission teams based in Honduras. They are providing food for families who are unable to work or even leave their homes due to government restrictions. Many families are struggling to afford food and only allowed to leave their homes once a week to get it. You can help Cultivate Life too. This is a great opportunity to support those in Honduras, and I know we can make a difference. If you're interested in being a part of something positive and lasting, I challenge you to check out this website and learn more information about donating. I hope you will join me. My husband and I are still planning to go to Honduras, as the airlines have credited our tickets for 2 years, and I will hold the event to raise funds then. In closing, some lessons I learned through my project experience are that leadership starts within, leadership involves controlled, empathetic concern, and leadership is persistent in its goals. I'd like to thank Rich St. Dennis, my instructor, for being a leader and for opening my eyes to potential in myself I did not see. I'd like to thank my classmates for their feedback and encouragement. And I'd like to thank you for your attention throughout my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
Katie, any questions from the group?
No, none coming through yet.
Courtney, let me ask you a question here. Your presentation really did a beautiful job of talking about emotional intelligence and especially the importance of empathy. What is one technique that you use to try to understand other people?
I really just consider, you can never really understand other people. And I think I've learned that through some of my own personal experiences, is that I guess not to be understood, then you kind of have your eyes open to the fact that maybe you don't understand others either, and just kind of being open to realizing that you may not get it and you may not know where they're coming from.
So that's a very good answer. I appreciate that.
Thank
Any
you.
final thought for us?
Yes. I would like to leave you with this quote by John Maxwell. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change, and the leader adjusts the sails. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Excellent job on that too, both of you. Lydia, Aaron, the standard is pretty high. The bar has been set pretty high for you. Aaron, are you ready to go?
Yep. Yeah, let me get my screen set up.
Very good.
Everyone able to see that?
And I hear you loud and clear, and I see it very beautifully. That's a great
All right.
photograph.
Do you wish you could ride your
Okay.
bike to work instead of sitting in traffic? Well, the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County are working to make this a reality with the proposed Cross Charlotte Trail. So right now in this picture, you're looking at Little Sugar Creek Greenway in Charlotte. Ultimately, this will become a 26-mile connected greenway that will connect over 140,000 residents together within walking distance. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aaron Wagner, and I'm a project manager at Land Design in the Charlotte office. I've always been passionate and interested in greenway projects and active transportation. Throughout my career so far, I've had the opportunity to work on planning, design, and construction oversight of greenways around Charlotte, as well as the surrounding areas. One thing I've always found it rewarding is to actually see people using projects that I've been able to work on. That's been a really cool thing throughout my career so far. So what do people want? What do you think was the #1 public request from a survey completed from 30 park and rec facilities? The #1 public request was paved walking and biking trails. Citizens often felt that this is an unmet need in their community. So our team here at Land Design, we're split between civil engineers and landscape architects. This gives us some collaboration and creative design between multiple disciplines. We're continuing to grow. So we have new hires joining our team pretty quickly, filling new roles. Most of these hires are, 0 to 1 to 2 years of experience. So I really saw a need to create some additional resources that can help these new hires grow into our team. This is one of the pictures of our Greenway team on a site walk with Mecklenburg County, just doing an assessment of where a potential Greenway could go. So I really try to point out 3 opportunities that I noticed. First one being having the opportunity to begin work on new Greenway projects. Secondly, wanted to be able to build stronger relationships. These can include internal relationships between the team as well as external relationships with clients and contractors and anybody working on the project together. And then lastly, just increasing communication and efficiently running projects together. So I really try to keep my project mission very simple. So basically the mission is to create an internal group, and together we share ideas, experience, and knowledge specific to Greenway projects. And a big part of this group was to create this shared resource folder. And in that folder, this would include relevant project plans, relevant information related to designers that can help on projects. And then lastly, just really increasing the communication between the group and establishing more clear roles together. So I started with setting a direction, then performing a SWOT analysis, and then lastly, targeting members internally that can be part of the group. So I did this by keeping the strategic plan very simple and straightforward. And really the SWOT analysis was the main area that I really discovered what was needed. So we had some great strengths. The #1 strength we had was really that I had colleagues that were excited and passionate about Greenway work and eager to be involved. One of our main weaknesses was just the lack of roles and responsibilities. We just needed a little bit more clear direction on how the team was moving forward. Also, we had a lot of great opportunities, one of those being that Mecklenburg County has committed to building more than 30 miles of greenways in the next 4 years. And then one of the threats with that is, the county often can experience budget cuts and construction costs have increased drastically. So both of those can often delay these projects. So once I had the team targeted members, I created a draft plan. And I remember I sent this to my boss. And I remember later getting a phone call, and he was really excited about speaking with the upper management about this opportunity, really excited with the idea, and told me that to go ahead and move forward, and any resources I needed to let him know what I needed to really make this happen. So at that point, that really gave me the motivation to go ahead and get started as soon as I could and getting conversations started with my colleagues. So at that point, we really scheduled the kickoff meeting. And the main point of the kickoff meeting was to really go over the main topics of the group that we wanted to cover. Our plan was to be able to have, since everybody had a different background, different people in our group could present different topics to the group. So these topics included project scoping, design guidelines, planning, technology used on greenways, permitting, cost estimating, and lastly, bidding and construction. So really, I knew that each member could contribute something to the group, and just really wanted to start with getting engaged of who was interested in presenting which topic. So this is just a good example of a planning project. This is actually a project with Mecklenburg County that we did a site walk with, and we really tried to point out some of the opportunities and features that could be used for the Greenway project. This would be an example of something that we could keep stored in that shared use folder for just a resource for any sort of new hire to understand just the planning phase of a project. And then really, I thought it was important to kind of jump from the beginning to the end. This is a cool construction example. So this is one of my projects also along Little Sugar Creek in Pineville. And I always have found it important to be able to take young designers on site to see projects. I think this really makes you a better designer. So due to COVID, we had to really adapt and go virtual. So we did use the Microsoft Teams platform. And also we did a shared whiteboard, which allowed us to everyone to have input into the group. So this was some of our key members, Beth, Nick, Gabe, and myself, talking through some of the topics together. So overall results, we had 4 virtual meetings. A lot of times we would finish those meetings with a virtual happy hour where we could just have some fun and talk to each other. And then lastly, we really began updating a design guideline that 2 of my colleagues, Matt and Jeremy, had previously created. So overall, things went well. We had great participation and passion. Due to COVID, we did have to postpone some of the site visits and internal meetings, but we plan to pick those up when everyone's back in the office. I think just being able to get out on site, like I said, with the group will be something that we can continue moving forward. So my main lessons, I think the first one, really adapt, is the most important. I've learned that leadership's about assessing your situation and then constantly adapting to make it better. Don't be afraid to delegate. Learn you really have to trust your team members and give them responsibility. And then keeping goals is just very important, to stick to the plan and really not have your project get stuck. Keep the momentum moving forward. And then lastly, inspiring others. Really try to make it to where everyone's ideas mattered and they could people can be comfortable in the group to contribute ideas. So really, these 4 points really sum up, what leadership is about to me. Really had a lot of fun with this project and being able to grow together with the group and see it evolve. So I'll now open up the floor for any questions.
Aaron, I have a question for you. When COVID hit and you had to go virtual, what's your best sense of how long it took for the members of the Greenway resource team to get comfortable what was their level of comfort and how quickly were they able to get on board and function in this new environment? What's your best sense?
So it surprisingly actually happened very quickly. We actually communicated more often with COVID, so we actually used Microsoft Teams to catch up with each other daily instead of monthly. So in a way, it actually made us communicate more often.
What was the effect of this
We've got
on their depth of planning and preparation?
I think it was challenging with the planning. We really had to discuss as a group, where we wanted to go with the group and really try to, make sure all the topics could be covered.
Any challenge with taking in all the different points of view?
Yeah, that was a big challenge. There was a lot of different backgrounds and disciplines and expertise, so it was challenging to keep the direction clear. So that was something that we've continued to have a challenge with.
Katie, any questions from our audience?
Yes, we have a couple. Can you elaborate on how you learned to delegate? Any lessons learned from that?
And we'll keep our answers really quick, Aaron, because we're at 10 minutes and 30 seconds right now.
I think the biggest lesson is you just have to trust in your teammates. At first, it might seem, like a little bit of too much responsibility given out, but you just have to just go for it and trust them.
One more quick question. How are the Greenway construction and maintenance financed?
Those are financed through Mecklenburg County. Typically, the projects are either Mecklenburg County or City of Charlotte finance. Any other questions?
All we've got.
Do we have any other questions?
No more questions.
Okay. So I'll leave you with this final thought. When you're dealt with challenging circumstances, I would recommend just continuing to look for ways to just bring people together. And this is a good quote that's a reminder of that by Gary Will. The leader is one who mobilizes others toward a goal shared by the leader and followers. So I thank you all for your time and have a great afternoon.
Aaron, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. We're 3 for 3 right now. Well done. Well done indeed. And I see we're pretty much right on schedule. I've got 12:43. Our next presenter is Drew Ritter from Ramey Camp and Associates. Drew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. The floor is yours.
Yeah, sorry, let me get back. Hi, I'm Drew Ritter, a traffic engineer, and I work for Ramey Camp and Associates. And my culmination project was around was around team building and mentoring in our Charlotte office. What are 2 effective ways that one can boost their career? And with me, that was, again, mentoring and team building. And I have a couple quotes. I don't have them up here on the screen. Gosh dang it, sorry. Mentorship. We're here for a reason. I believe a bit of the reason is to throw little torches out to lead people through the dark. Whoopi Goldberg. The delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. Steven Spielberg. And then team building, I have a couple quotes as well. The strength of the team is each member. The strength of each member is the team, Phil Jackson. And coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress. And working together is success, Henry Ford. And those quotes kind of just inspired me. It really trying to relate to some of the younger members in our office. So here is kind of what took place. My project really targeted, I would say, less than less than half our office. We have about 10 people in the Charlotte office. Less than 10 is probably 25 or younger. So my project was largely targeted towards development of our interns and like younger colleagues in our Charlotte office to be more motivated, skilled, just beyond where they would be at that stage in their career. As far as like location, mainly in the Charlotte office, we weren't as able to do as many virtual outings just with the whole pandemic. And again, it largely targeted younger staff. And it started January 2020 and a kind of ongoing thing. So what actually I plan to do. So it started with, we currently have like weekly workload meetings, and I was hoping to incorporate some of these pieces of my project into these meetings, getting, opinions from the group regarding social outings. And we currently do like a lunch once a week as an office. I wanted to pick the brains of some of the upper level staff in our office as well. I also started creating lists of things that could be delegated down, stuff on my plate that I shouldn't be doing, and just really trying to develop a tighter knit group by creating a more collaborative environment and doing some out of office activities. And this would also potentially, develop a roadmap for other offices in our company. We have offices in South Carolina and Virginia. So what actually happened pre-pandemic, pretty much all this, the weekly launch, I made weekly lists of tasks that could be delegated down, coordination. I let some of our younger staff coordinate with clients, coordinate with colleagues. I think a lot of times they, the interns and younger, right out of school grads are, doing just kind of, I don't want to say busy work, but just like production type work. So allowing them to feel more empowered by allowing some coordination with municipalities and clients was, and then during the pandemic, like kind of everyone else kind of spoke on already, we had to switch to virtual via Zoom or Teams. And obviously we weren't able to have the get-togethers at launch, but we replaced that with virtual happy hours. And, we do that once a week. I actually have one planned for this afternoon. So that was a big transition. I mean, not really for everyone. I was gonna say some of the steps or some of the things I applied from the course, probably number one was delegation. That's really been one of my big takeaways. Trying to make people feel like they belong, incorporating every single member of the team, and also kind of acknowledge and praising when someone has a good idea or, beats a deadline or something. Results. So what was accomplished? So I would say first off, I definitely made younger, employees feel more empowered, enjoy what they're doing, and really trying to develop skills that they wouldn't have done earlier in their career, and potentially prepping them for future roles in the company or future endeavors, just building their confidence. What went well, I would say communication went very well. Everyone, for the most part, had positive outlooks on things. What did not go well, I would say I probably wasn't as organized as I could have been. I don't really know how I could have prepped, or really anyone could have prepped for the pandemic. I mean, I adjusted, taking everything virtual. I used my phone probably more than I've used in my entire life. And I was gonna say I probably didn't have 100% buy-in from the initial go, but over time, people have seemed to come around. As far as next steps, just really kind of continuing to build on what I've done and what people in our office have built. maybe trying to implement some of this stuff company-wide, you know, for other offices. Like I said, our office is fairly young, half under the age of 25, I would say. You know, routinely getting stuff done, you know, outside of office get-togethers, that kind of thing. And again, lessons learned. I guess like key takeaways is communication, number one. I mean, it really spills over into every single part of, you know, whatever you're doing, whether it's team building or mentoring someone. Having that accountability really keeps I know we've touched on kind of keeping the team performing at a high level. You have to have people in your group or team that are willing to hold you accountable for things, and emotional intelligence as well, really knowing what each member, the strengths and the weaknesses of each member, what makes that person tick. Oh, maybe I shouldn't go, you know, talk to this person right now. Emotional intelligence is very important takeaway as well. The biggest things that I can take going forward, again, I know I've already touched on it, with public speaking, Rich really did a good job of maybe putting us in some not so uncomfortable situations where we had to kind of impromptu speaking, delegation. I also built some confidence with, you know, in, you know, situations I probably wouldn't have like spoke up in certain situations. Learned how to use my leadership style, you know, the benefits and really understanding what it is and how to use it. And then again, the importance of emotional intelligence. Questions? And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for me. Any questions?
Katie, any questions out there?
Not yet. If anyone has a question, go ahead and type it in.
Drew, let me throw a question at you. When you first started this project, were there some people who were really quick to get on board, who were very open to it, and some people who might have resisted a little bit?
There was a little bit of both. I think there were some definitely people that were eager to have something like this in place, with having so many new employees, you know, be a good way to get, you know, people more comfortable with each other. And then you have these other extreme where you have people that are, you know, kind of shy. It took them a little bit of time to open up to, you know, maybe they're used to just coming from the office and not having to meet coworkers outside the office. So, but I think overall everyone was pretty much on board.
What did you learn about how to get those people who are reluctant or shy to come on board with you? What do you think the best practice, best technique would be?
Well, I think the best practice was building a good rapport with those people. I think it took down, you know, they're a little bit more vulnerable and kind of just getting to know each person on an individual level and what makes that person tick, and slowly those walls kind of came down.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Katie, questions?
I don't see any questions this round.
Okay. All right, Drew, go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay. I will leave you with just these couple things. Mentoring is a best practice in successful companies. You know, approximately 70% of Fortune 500 companies have mentoring programs. And again, just team building helps companies foster healthy competition. So I'll leave you with that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Drew. And I love that quote there at the very end from Robert Ingersoll. We rise by lifting others. And that's basically what leadership is about, lifting people into their better selves. Well, we just heard 4 excellent presentations. Thank you, all of you, Lydia, Courtney, Aaron, and Drew. And we'll be doing the same thing next week, next Wednesday, a week from now. Were there any other questions or comments throughout the hour, Katie, that we did not address?
Nope, that we got all of the questions that came through.
Okay, very good. Well, nobody ever complained to me about finishing up a little bit early. It's 12:55. My thanks to all the 4 presenters. Katie, again, thank you. And everybody out there listening, join us again next Wednesday for more presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Everyone, your
Thank you.
PDH and your NC Bells survey will be emailed to you this afternoon. Again, if you would like to join us next week, the registration link is on our website, penc.org. Have a great day, everyone.